welcome to the best of everything. I am Ruben Paul, and to the right of me is my brother from another
from
mother.
the same mother.
Oh, yes.
My Portuguese
Congo.
My
I've
Portuguese
heard about that.
brother.
Yeah.
No more my Mexican brother.
By the way,
my Portuguese
whisper
brother.
out to my Bantu people.
Stop it with that, man.
It's too. What? It's with the Bantu. It's Congo.
Anyway.
Cameroon, Congo, Bantu.
All right.
Anyway, to my Portuguese, my predominantly Portuguese brother.
Still
Yes.
Portuguese. I'm trying to come up with a new Portuguese.
Portuguese,
Mexicese.
The other voice that you're hearing
Oh yeah, sorry.
is the one and only, another brother from another mother.
Yes.
The one and only.
Not from the Congo.
Not from the Congo. Well, you don't know yet.
But I like to play the bongo. Hey, come on. I don't know. I did the thing. I did the Ancestry.com.
You had had to have some African in you because the whole planet comes from Africa.
I must have.
You must have.
Yeah, I had a little bit.
Wait,
I had
wait.
some Jewish in
He
me
didn't
too.
even-
Why'd you just discount it?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Why'd you just not even?
No, because
that should have been
the thing that stuck out to me being born in Iran was the Jewish thing. I go, I'm like 6% Jewish.
6%.
Yeah.
Really?
Hello.
Look at that. Almost 10%.
Yeah.
Almost took
10%,
10%.
bro.
from
Ladies
it.
and gentlemen, Maz Jobrani.
Hey,
Yeah.
what's up? Yes.
Man, first of all, thank you for coming to do the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Me and Johnny are, we've had love for you. We've been friends for a long time.
Of course.
We're fans and friends.
Two of my favorite people.
Hey, man.
Besides comedy, just like you know how it is, you guys, when you're at the club
Yeah.
and you're kind of hanging out and you're like, oh, I wonder who's gonna walk through that door.
Uh-huh.
And then sometimes someone walks through the door, you're like, I don't want to talk to that. You're like, "Ah."
Exactly.
And then the worst is when they start talking to you, you're like, oh no,
man.
right? And you two are not that. You two, when you walk through, I'm like, all right,
I get
party
excited.
started.
You know what?
Yeah.
Like
Thank
a lot
you.
of times,
Feelings mutual, by the way.
Yeah, of course. Well, me and Johnny talk a lot about trying to remember when we first met, and it just seems like we've always we kind of narrowed it down.
We got a timeline of like a year.
Were you ever at the store? Because I know I met you at the store.
We know where we.
And then I met you at the factory.
Factory,
But were
absolutely.
you ever a store guy, or you
I was
never did
a
that?
store guy. I just would pop in and do spots
Right.
at the store, but never did the whole store thing because I came from the black rooms, and the
Right.
Laugh Factory just immediately, Jamie kind of just took a liking to me and gave me so many spots. And then
Yeah.
at that time, the Laugh Factory was the place.
Yeah, and
to
the
be.
store was in the dark ages. You're talking
Yeah.
like late 90s, early
late
2000s.
90s,
Yeah.
because you got there late 90s.
I got there late 90s.
98,
yeah,
right?
yeah. There was 98 or 90. 98, I started doing the Bringer shows, and then I think 99, I became a regular.
You became a regular.
and
95.
you became a regular when?
95.
95. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you were
early
you, was it already on the downhill when you got in, like the skidding, like it was empty rooms and.
No, man. I got to experience. It was still, there was the two shows Friday and Saturday nights were packed in the main room, and they were turning over the rooms. But it was starting to around 99. I think is when it was starting to slow down. I got to feel a lot of that vibe that was happening early on. Because I remember specifically, and I could be wrong on my timeline here, but I thought that it was giving you these spots really early, but you could have put in a year, I don't know. But I just remember you getting really late spots in the main room.
I would get late
Remember
spots in the
those?
original room and the main room. And the
Okay,
weirdest thing, because I had this conversation.
simultaneously, or did you?
Different nights.
No. I mean, did she make?
No, it took a while. No, it took a while. Yeah,
Oh,
she made me
okay,
wait a
she
little.
did.
Yeah, she made me wait a little.
Because you were up there, you were doing spots in the main room. I mean, late with like Dave Tyree.
That's what I'm saying.
And I was like, why is she gave me late ones too, but not. I just felt like it was.
I had a conversation with Joe Diaz one time at the store, going, I don't get it, like, because I wasn't a dirty comic, and it would get dirtier and dirtier and crazier and crazier, and I'm just hanging out with all the dirty comics, and I'm like, okay,
I don't belong here.
I gotta follow Holtzman, which by the way was the best thing ever.
Yeah, because it taught you how to find.
But also I get to hang with these guys.
Yeah.
I'd much rather be there than some people come in and she goes, okay, you're gonna host the opening spot. You're gonna be the opening act of the original room, which is the worst. I've done that once, and it was because one time they had me. I think they scheduled me to be the second act on the show, and I had somewhere to be. So I was like, "Can I just switch with whoever's before me?" And I didn't know that was it was like a 10 o'clock spot or something. I thought the show was gonna start at 9, but the show started at 10. And I got there, and I'm like, "Oh wait, I'm the first act." And the worst part, as you guys know, is that's when people are still walking in.
Yeah. Trust me, dude.
And there's no winning in that first spot. That's a really hard spot. At least the late spots, you can go to the whole like, why are you guys here? Why am I here? What's going like?
You can even reference what they just saw, what they've witnessed. But you're right, because it would be all this, later on in night, it's like, even Diaz and some of these guys, F this and F that. And then all of a sudden, Maz would always come on with the big smile on his face. Everybody's exhausted. It's 1:30 in the morning. And he's like, hey, how you guys doing? You guys doing all right?
I had to follow Dice one time, and he did a whole thing. It was an hour long, and it was somewhat of a sparse room, but he was killing. And then he was doing this whole thing. Are we allowed to cuss on this?
Yes.
So he was doing a whole thing. It was about like he goes suck ass, just kept saying suck ass again. And they're dying, they're loving it. Yeah. And I'm sitting there going like, oh wow, I was going to talk about the Iraq War. And I'm like, how do I go up and talk about the Iraq War after suck ass?
Yeah.
And it was as you learn. It's kind of like martial arts or whatever. You got to play with the bigger guys to learn. So really, I went up there, and my first 2 minutes was about suck ass and like my experience of hearing him say it, and how now, thanks Dice, now that's going to be in my head. And whatever it was, and eventually was able to bring them to me. And by the way, even if I wasn't able to bring them to me, the whole point is it's a set at the club. Just go make them laugh.
Yeah, I didn't do as many spots there, but there's profound moments that I remember going on after Dice was one, going on after Chris Rock. Like, and these are always pop-ins. Yeah. Right when I'm about to go on, it's like, hey, Dice is going up next.
It was like as soon as they walked in.
Yeah, man.
There was no, hey, man,
no
is it
preps.
okay if he goes? It was like, hey, he's going up.
He's going up.
She's going up. They're going up.
And it was funny because in your own mind, because there's such a hierarchy, and for, comedy fans, like they'll know. So if you're headlining a club, you're headlining a club. It's your show. Yeah. But if you're at the club in LA or New York and it's a bunch of people, there's this hierarchy. So if somebody comes in who is, a star, they're going to go up before you. But then you start working, and maybe like you get a couple of gigs on a TV show, and now you're on a TV show, and you're like, oh, can I still be bumped by that guy? And they go, yeah, you still can. And then you're trying to figure out where you fit in.
Yeah.
And then Guy Torrey had his Fat Tuesdays at the store, and that's when I used to be there all the time, and that was a whole different level of stardom and big name comics coming through,
and celebrities there.
Oh man, it was
Shaq used to be there all the time.
It was bananas. It was those days were bananas.
Yeah,
and it came straight from because Def Comedy Jam was really popular and really hot. They had that room, so it'd be Cedric the Entertainer, and like any black comedian who was huge from that era would come on that Tuesday night, and it was celebrity filled. And as a younger comic, the only thing you could say to yourself is, I do not want to bomb in front of Spike Lee or Shaquille O'Neal or any of those people. So you always had to have your A game. But the thing that I remember most about you, which is rare in a lot of comics, and me and Johnny talk about this, and how our relationship is. I remember being at Dublin's when Dublin's was the shit.
Yeah.
And you came up to me, you was like, hey man, what agency are you with? It was something like that. And I was like, oh, I'm not. It's like, yo man, I dropped you just dropped your name to an agent, or it was something that you didn't have to do.
Oh, wow.
And we weren't even really, we were friends, it was like, hey, what's up? But we didn't talk on the phone or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, like, wow, man, that was really cool that you would do something like that. And it's continued on even to this day. Like, there's always opportunities where it's like, yo, man, I dropped your name to this person. Like, even with the ethnic show in Montreal, which they've never booked me on. And I'm a Haitian, and Montreal has a huge Haitian population, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
But, but just even stuff like that to take the time. Look straight. Of course.
Bruce, if you're watching. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Listen, the part of it for me has been, because I don't know how it was back in the days, back in the day, like in the 70s or whatever, if managers and agents would come and scout and watch and sit in the back. Once in a while, we still see some guys from agencies, guys and girls, coming and sitting around and watching and being fans of comedy, and then finding people. Generally, if somebody comes up to you afterwards and like, hey, I work with whatever big agency.
Exactly.
They're usually like the mailroom guy.
Yes.
And that's why they're hanging out. And they're like, can I sign you? And you're like, where do you work? You're like, mailroom. You're like, well, it's representation.
Yeah.
Can you get me stamps?
Exactly.
But I feel like from the moment I started, when I would see guys like you guys, and I was like, God, this guy's a killer, and I'd be, and sometimes you'd find out, like, because it's hard to get representation, and you'd be like, who you with? And you're like, oh, I'm looking, and you're like, well, I'm gonna tell my guy about you.
Yeah,
and that was constant. I even like hooked you up at one point with my manager, right? Like, and it didn't work out the way it was supposed to, but still,
yes,
because the reason I would do that is I would see guys, whether it's you guys or again, there's so many people I'm going, why isn't this guy? Because you'd watch TV, and of course, everyone who
everybody's not like that though, Maz. You know what I mean?
But there's just to me, it was like wasted talent. Like you said, like Joe Diaz was so easy to cast in Sopranos or something. Like, why wouldn't they just throw him in?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Even like Sebastian early on, you're like, why isn't this guy in a thing? You know, it's like, so you have all these friends, and you're like, let me tell my manager agent. And the problem became, they would sometimes be like, hey man, I can only do so much. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I realized, oh, okay, well then the best I can do is say there's this guy who you got to really see him, and if you want, great. If not, then whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done similar things for.
Oh well, that's me and you. That's our character. It just says a lot about you. And I'm not saying you're a bad person if you don't do that, but maybe you are a bad person if you don't do that.
But it does say a lot because some people just get a lot of the entertainers and comics specifically do get a little competitive and almost a weirdly possessive about like, well, I don't, that means here's a weird thing that always I would hear other comics go, well, I mean, I'm not gonna, like, if I brought up somebody, I'd be like, how about your guy, man? Why don't you see if he'd be interested? They weren't interested. I tried.
Yeah.
And it's like, but we might be going out for the same stuff. I go, you're going to be going out for the same stuff anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether he's at your age.
People don't get that.
Yeah. Some people don't get it.
Well, there's a few things. I think one is, like you said, there's a jealousy thing, and they're worried as a competitive thing. But I see it as like the more you guys succeed, the more I will succeed. Meaning, for example, you guys have the show now. You call me up, hey, come do the show, right?
Yeah.
If you end up on a TV show and they go, we got a character that's this and that. Oh, great. Call up Ruben, call up Johnny, right?
Yeah.
So your success will help me succeed. That's how I see it. And the other thing is, I think some people live out of fear. They feel like the manager and the agent and all these people are the boss, and that they work for those people.
Absolutely.
And so I think they are afraid to do they don't want to rock the boat at all. And in my opinion, first of all, it's not that I'm rocking the boat at all. Like, it's all about how you present things, right? If you do it in a diplomatic way, I'm not calling up my agent and going, you have to take this guy on or I'll leave. I'm saying, hey, there's this guy, he's really funny and he doesn't have representation. And I don't know if you've got someone like him or not, but if you're interested, check him out. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
And then let the manager decide.
Exactly. Like, you can't force anybody to sign it. Well, it depends when you get, but for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. And you want that manager to be a fan. You want the manager to see what you see.
Yeah, especially, but when it even goes to casting, like literally people can go in and it's a role for a black guy who's Haitian and his initials are RP. Like, do you know anybody?
Yeah.
Nah, Haitian with the initials RP.
Nobody coming to mind.
Nobody's coming to mind.
Yeah.
And then when they see you, they go, damn, dude.
Yeah.
You just reminded me about this role.
Yeah.
It's like, give me a
because I saw you right now, man.
Yeah, but that's always been great about you. And then, like I said, we'd worked together at the factory for so long, and Jamie absolutely loves you because you guys have the Iranian
same background,
connection, so he always has love for you. Now, on this show, we've talked about with guests about turning points, defining moments.
Yes.
If you think about, I know in my head what I might think the defining moment was for you, but in your own words or from your perspective, what do you think a defining moment in your career was? Now, it could have been early on. You could have had more than one defining moment.
Yeah.
Like, what's something that stands out to you where you go, wow, my life has changed?
Yeah, I would always say, so one thing is, I say it's very rare that you have that one moment where someone goes, you, and it happens. Like we just saw it with Tiffany with that movie, really helped her go to that next level, right?
Yes.
Now, the truth is, there was a lot of other points leading up to that.
Yes.
But that you can really point out and go, wow, But I feel that we have a series of those. Like for me, career-wise, the first one really for me was becoming a regular at the Comedy Store. And that really helped me grow as a comedian. Because before that, I was doing bringer shows where it was a memorized monologue, and it would be you and 10 other comedians who are all horrible. So you're the best out of the worst. And
best of the worst.
Best of the worst.
Yeah.
And then you would just do your thing, and you'd have like bringer shows, as you bring like 4 or 5 people. So they're going to laugh, and some other people are going to laugh. So you're just doing your routine and they're laughing at your routine. And it wasn't until I was at the Comedy Store where I learned to be in the moment, be in the room.
That's right.
And it happened one night specifically, I remember, where it was about 1:45 in the morning, one of those late spots. And I went on stage and there was these two nerdy dudes with this really hot girl. And they were all sitting to the right. And that was all that was in the room. Now, I didn't know in the back of the room was Freddie Soto watching. So I go on stage, I start doing my act, and then just like a minute or two in, I'm like, what am I doing? I go, I'm really curious about this. Like, how did you two end up with her? And I just started with that, and they started laughing. And then we went back and forth, and then I was just riffing on stuff and had just had a fun set. And then I came off stage, and Freddie was, obviously he was older than me, and he was one of the best. And he said, and he was sitting down, I sat next to him. He's like, hey man, you're funny. I go, thanks. And he goes, yeah, what was good was it's not about the bits. He goes like, he goes,
it's not about the bits, brother.
It's not about the bits. It just isn't. He goes, if it's about the bits, then you're done. He's like, you got it. You're either funny or you're not, and you got it. I was like, oh wow, thanks, man. And it really was an eye opener. So that to me was almost like the Comedy Store was like being invited into the dojo. That was why it wasn't necessarily like I got in the Comedy Store and then people started going, oh, we're gonna give you your own TV show, but it was, oh my God, I'm learning so much. Exponentially, I grew.
Yeah.
Well,
I think. I'm sorry.
No,
but
go ahead.
I put. That's one of my big defining moments is Mitzi passing me because, I know if we talked to Ruben about it, maybe even talked about it here, but just the fact that because, when I look back, she passed me a little too soon.
Yeah.
And she would do that a lot.
Yeah, me too.
And I remember that same thing. I remember at the time the booker was Scott Day and they were giving me these certain spots and I'd be like, man, dude, I ate it the other night. He's like, don't worry about it. She's just right. Matter of fact, there became a time when she was putting me on after Dice when he was doing his 45 to an hour in the OR. And I called Scott at one point. I go, hey, dude, I'm dying. I'm eating shit for 15, bro. He's like, she's just doing it to make it, And then I ended up finding a bit that I used to do in my open mic days that was Dice as a kid in kindergarten doing the alphabet. And then I'd go on after him and open with that. And it changed everything.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean. It's like, she allowed, this is what people don't understand how great really Missy was.
Yeah.
She'd see something in you early.
Yeah.
And she'd go, yeah, just keep giving him spots. He'll get there. And then gradually everybody started growing. Cause I was there at the same time with Freddie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And man, Freddie, and it's always this one moment on stage. I know people told me this later. I didn't know at that moment, but they'd come up going, you just, like you hit a new stride, right?
Wow.
I go, wait, really? That set you just had, and for you, it was those three people.
Absolutely.
And you dropped the bit.
Yeah.
And the routine.
Yeah.
And you just went, let me just play this moment
Let me just talk to them.
Well, what's interesting is just listening to the story. I think really any defining moment, especially in comedy, is when you could find a place to work.
Yeah.
That's going to allow you to work. There's a lot of clubs that won't allow you to fail up. What I mean? If somebody sees something in you. I came from an environment where it was nothing but killers in terms of, D.L. Hughley and Ricky Harris and Joe Torre and all these other guys were already stars when I started doing comedy. But it was Michael Williams, the owner of the Comedy Act Theater, when I came in and did the open mic there, he saw something in me to the point where he took me to his home, showed me tapes of Moms Mabley and Robin Harris and all these people would come before and told me stuff like, if your punchline is a curse word, you don't have a joke.
Yeah.
And just all these things. Sent me on the road to Atlanta to work the Comedy Act Theater in Atlanta, where those comics were evil and horrible people.
Yeah.
And they sent me there to feature.
Yeah.
And I was from LA, and all I knew was being from LA. And then you get out there and you're bombing every set on the road, and the host is destroying you.
Yeah.
Giving you horrible intros. I'll never forget this comic. His name was Chris Charles, and he goes, "This next nigga is from LA." And
that's it.
And that's it.
Wow.
And I went up. I'm a new comic, man. I've only been doing comedy like 6 months or some shit like that.
Yeah.
3 months, 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, that's a tough
And then I told Michael, why did you send me to Atlanta? I wasn't ready to go on the road. And he was like, you needed to learn.
Yeah.
And the condo he put us in was horrible. Like it was
horrible,
just a horrible experience from top to bottom. The comics there hated me because I was going out there. So I'm saying all that to say, when you find a place that allows you to work, I knew at that point Michael believed in me and all I had to do was do the work. I mean, that's what's most important, whether it's the Comedy Store, whether it's the Comedy Act Theater, whether it's the
improv.
Well, that's what I see.
Or any room in any other
country, state. Yeah.
Well, that's, I get people sometimes, younger comics will be like, oh, can I do a spot on your show? And that's when I'm like headlining and this is a hot crowd that came out to laugh.
Yes.
And it's going to take a lot for them not to laugh.
Yes.
So they'll even give you the benefit of the doubt. And I tell comics, I go, listen, you don't want to get up in front of my crowd because this is my headlining crowd. They're happy. They're ready to go.
Yes.
Like you can go up there and you're not going to learn much. You're just going to do your thing. They might be nice to you and you might do your 5 and get off and go, oh, that felt pretty good. But you want to get up what you just said. I said, find that cafe where someone's making a cappuccino on the side and there's a homeless dude in the corner. Find that. That's where you want to get up. And some of my best times were those where because you grow, you're like, oh my God, this is gonna be death, and you go up and you try and find a way to get through it, and you hope that somebody doesn't like attack you or boo you off stage. You just hope that a lot of it comes down to you just making fun of the situation. I got booked one time to do a room in Beverly Hills, and I didn't know until I got there. It was a restaurant, and they'd set up the stage at the front entrance. And it was just like this guy and his friends. I mean, there wasn't even that many people, but they were. But as I was the first comic up, and so as I would start a joke, somebody would walk in. So then I started acting like I was a maitre d', and I was like, "Hi, how are you? How many in your party?" And then the guy would actually, some people would be like, "Oh, there's 4 of us," and I was having fun with it. And, people either got it or they didn't get it, but it's just like, you could run from that. But having come through those nights at the Comedy Store, I don't think I've definitely had moments where I've been intimidated, but I've been like, I gotta go up.
I gotta be honest with you guys. Like coming from the black circuit in LA and coming and working like the Store and the Laugh Factory, that shit just seems so easy.
Yeah.
Because I had to make a transition. You know what I mean? So when I came and the day to the Laugh Factory, because the Laugh Factory was the first club that I came to. Shout out to Marcus King. He had set up a showcase for Jamie. Jamie he picks and chooses when he wants to sit and watch somebody. And Dana Lane, who used to be his number 1 assistant, literally made Jamie sit down and watch me. And was like, "Buddy, you have spots." But I remember coming over there and seeing Dane Cook when Dane Cook had just come to LA and was murdering every night, and then seeing Ralphie May and Mitch Mulaney and all these other guys,
Jay Moore,
Bob Marley,
like all these guys were murdering. And one thing that I noticed is how most of the comics were afraid to follow killers.
Yeah.
But I had, I came from the Comedy Act Theater. I had to go up after Chris Tucker after the movie Fridays.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, you're scared to go up after that white guy, Dane Cook? Like, he was killing, but there was like no intimidation because I had come from an environment where you'd get booed off stage.
Yeah.
So if you don't do well at the store, it's like, hey, you had a bot set, they're gonna play you off with the piano jingle.
Yeah.
At a black club, if you don't do well, they will talk about you, your mama, everybody that you know.
Yeah.
So it just prepares you for, man, when I came into this environment, like Freddie Soto, first time I saw Freddie Soto, he was horrific.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing him years later, and I told him, I was like, damn, dog, you got good, man. He's like, thanks, brother. I was like, yeah, you were terrible the first time I saw you. Yeah. I saw him at Tortillas.
Oh, yeah.
There was this club in Montebello.
Yeah.
So I used to do a lot of Latino rooms,
too. Me too. Yeah.
And then, then I remember seeing Freddie go up and just eat it. And then I had seen him a couple of other times, and I used to just think like he was terrible.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, I think a lot of comics that come through the black clubs, I think they are charismatic because you gotta be. You gotta be ready. Stage presence ready to go. What's up? Let's go. Because of what you just said. You gotta deliver because you're following these guys.
Yes.
And I think the Store, it was like, it wasn't necessarily you're following like, a lot of times you were following stars, but you're also following like dirty acts and late night, and it's like 4 people. So that was another thing,
Yes.
But
it was a different muscle that allowed you to. The funny thing about Freddie, I'm glad you brought him up, because when we were all doing the Latino night at the Laugh Factory, we weren't regulars there, but this was the mid-90s, whatever. and this is, when you think you're already ahead of where you are, like
Yes.
so I'm watching Freddie, and he's got the set. It's slow. He's not doing well. He gets off stage, and I said, hey man, if you speed it up a little, you've got too many. There's just lulls in between. And I never forget. Freddie goes, "Yeah, that's cool, brother. I'm just trying to be like the Grateful Dead of comedy, brother."
Hilarious.
And I go, "Oh, okay, all right." So then years later, I brought that up, like when he was doing his dad and just like mowing down the audience with like no breath, no breaks. I go, "Hey man, what happened to the Grateful Dead?"
Hilarious.
And he just goes, "I guess I became Rage Against the Machine." But he laughed about it because he goes, "I can't believe I said that." He goes, "I cannot believe I said that." He goes, "Yeah, but those early days." And but Maz, I have to say, and I don't know if this is you would consider this a defining moment, but I also remember you telling me that you had worked at this printing place. You had a job at this printing place, and because you were really good at promoting
at the ad agency.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And you early on, because you had access to printing up flyers and all that when you were doing your bringer shows because I used to see your flyers.
Yeah. I used to do that.
And I'm like, how's this guy promoting himself? He's been doing comedy for a year. But isn't that, think about it, man. That really
I would
helped.
say, well, you know what? Actually, I went to, so early on, when I dove in, I started late. I was 26 years old, but I'd been a fan of comedy my whole life. I wanted to be like Eddie Murphy since I was like 9 or 10, but then having immigrant parents, they led me a different direction.
Of course.
And I dabbled in it a little bit here and there. But once I got into it at 26, I was mature enough to go, okay, I got to go hard. Like and I took Judy Carter's class.
Oh, that's
yeah.
right.
And one of the things they taught us at the class, I said, get up as much as you can, write as much as you can. So there was a handful of us where we'd be like, all right, let's go out, with your comedy buddies. So we'd be going to Malibu, do a set, go over here, do a set. I was all over the place.
Yeah.
And then I was just taking in whatever I could. And then AFTRA had some sort of seminar for comedy, and they had, a panel. And one of the people on the panel was Tommy Davidson. And Tommy Davidson told the story of when he came to LA. And he goes, when I first came to LA, he goes, I used to be a killer in DC. I come to LA, I'm doing well. But he goes, one of the things that really helped me blow up was after the show, I'd have somebody collecting people's addresses, and then I would mail them flyers saying, next time I'm in town, come see me, come see me.
Mail them.
Oh, that's crazy.
This is before
that's
email. Yeah. This is before.
This is snail mail, man.
This is snail mail. Yeah. This is
just to be that ahead of the game.
I don't even know if I've ever heard that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if anybody that was mailing.
Of course, you used to send postcards. When I first started.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Postcards for like.
You send them to
agencies.
But
listen.
But he's talking about audience members, right?
Yeah. When I first started doing so in '94, before I was at that point I was 22. I was at UCLA doing a play, but I was also in the graduate program for political science. But I was doing the play on the side because I really wanted to get into this acting stuff. And even back then, I remember like I really wanted to do the acting, but I was like, I got to do something that my parents want me to do. And doing the play, I actually got some postcards and I mailed them to agents. And I said, hey, I'm this actor. I'm in this play at UCLA. Come see me. One guy was like, okay, I'll come. And then I go, great, I'll leave you 2 tickets. And I've got and I bought the guy a parking ticket. I was like so excited. This agent's coming to see me. This could be my big break.
Real adult.
And the dude straight up was like, I don't know. He was like, I couldn't make it. My daughter. I mean, first of all, who the hell am I?
Yeah.
Secondly, life happens. He's not gonna. So he didn't come. And it was like I was like, oh man, that was my one shot to get out of this. I thought in my head. So once I got into it in my mid-20s, 4 years later. And I heard Tommy Davidson say that. So yeah, I would come up with like different headshots, and I would first of all, back then you used to have to you could take them to the breakdown services,
right?
And you would say, I want these sent to all the producers or all the casting agents. Yeah, you take like 300 cards. I think you even had to either put the stamp on them or you would pay them and they would do it. But I remember being up, at my ex-girlfriend's back then, in the middle of the night, putting stamps on 300, 400, because then I had a mailing list from a play I'd done. So I'd put like stamps on these 300 or 400 postcards. Then I would every month I would just you don't replace the postcard, that's too expensive. You just type up a new label with the dates you're going to be. So like 5 dates would be like haha Comedy Store, and then I would just mail those, and I would say, come see me at these clubs. And because of that, what would happen is, first of all, as you guys know, there's a big Persian community in LA. And at that point, there wasn't any other Iranian comedian out there.
Right.
And so they were discovering me. And so every time I do a bringer show where somebody might have 2 people in the audience, I'd always have like 10 people. And then bringer bookers loved me. They'd be like, oh, this guy's great. He's going to bring people. So I just kept doing that. And that helped me grow my fan base.
Right. Damn it. You know what, dude? I've never done a bringer show.
Well, there you go.
I haven't either.
You didn't have to.
We didn't have. It was.
You were
different.
just doing the mics because you
we
could
just do the mics. Yeah,
because you could go that route.
But look at the tools though that it gave you.
Yeah.
It benefited you down the line.
Yeah.
A guy that I came up with that was a little ahead of me was Alex Thomas.
Yeah.
But Alex came from, he was a dancer. He did all these things, and I remember doing open mics with him, and they would call his name and the room would explode, and I would
remember doing work.
And I remember I never forget him and Daryl. I was like, yo, man, can I talk to you for a second? I go, how long have you been doing this? He was like, just, maybe like a year longer than me or something. And he goes, yeah, man. I used to dance and everything. So I just invite people out to all my shows. And he would be murdering, but it was always a home game for him.
Yeah.
Every time he performed.
Yeah.
But I never really, even now to this day, it's difficult to promote yourself and to ask people. That's very different from my personality.
I mean, listen, there's a couple of things. I was listening to Kevin Hart talk about when he built his email as he was touring and building his email list. And we did that when we did Access to Evil with Ahmed, Aaron, and Dean.
Yeah.
We would, back then, this is before social media really took off, we would have a list, and we'd have people write their names and their email address. So that really helped any city we'd go to. Also, we'd say, listen, if you have a friend in such and such, let them know, right?
Yeah.
So that helped us then. And then we had MySpace, and we would reach, back then MySpace had a thing where you could do, promote within 60 miles of this or whatever. So then that would happen, right? So you get the word out. Then I think, as you said, it's like at a certain point, I stopped getting emails and I just kind of let it go. And I've started to get them again. And I don't know how useful they are anymore. But it's, in my mind, I was like, God, I should have kept going as hard, as hard as because you look at a guy like Kevin and the way he grew. Obviously, part of it is, he was good and he was liked by the industry. Part of it is promoting and being able to say, hey, my special's coming out, and all of a sudden it gets great ratings. Or when he did that movie, he was like he was just one of the guys in that Steve Harvey movie, what Women Want or something. What was that one called? It was based off a book.
Yeah, What Women Want.
Whatever it was, he was like one of the guys. But from what I heard, his social media presence really helped push that movie over.
Yes.
So you learn and you got to do it. So now it's always there's always something new. Right? So for a while it was Facebook. Now it feels like it's Instagram. And now I don't know what the next one's going to be. But on Instagram, at least, I'm learning myself that, first of all, number one thing, be consistent.
Yes.
Number two, I had a conversation with Dane, actually. He was like, it can't always be, come see me here, come see me here. You got to entertain people.
Yeah.
So now I do, for example, I'm doing,
Persian word of the day.
Persian word of the week is on Wednesday, right? Tuesday, I drop a clip from my new podcast I'm doing.
Okay.
Thursday, I'll do a throwback Thursday. And then throughout the week, if something comes to mind or if I find a funny clip, I'll just post it.
Yeah.
And suddenly people start coming on. Now, will they come to shows? I don't know. But I have run into people in random places who'll be like, hey, I love your Persian word of the week. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know it was reaching this many people, but somehow it is. So it's just about letting people know you're there. And then because you're doing the work, when someone comes to see you at the club, you're going to do well.
Yes.
So it's like you want people to come see you. You want to hear when they say Johnny Sanchez, you want to hear people go, and you go, oh, wow, people are here to see me.
Now what's interesting, go ahead. Shoot, you just said something and I think I may have lost it. Damn it.
Persian word of the week, setting something up, consistent, entertain. Don't just do the posters every week, but rather entertaining.
Yeah.
And
I hate when that.
You're going to deliver when they come. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That is true. I mean,
go ahead.
It is a difference.
Just how does that work like that? It's right here. I can see it.
It'll come back. It'll come back to you. And I have noticed this, for me, even doing Ruby Tuesdays, the Tuesday night show that I do. When you first start doing it and you're first trying to build it, and we're still building, is now when I'm introduced, it's totally different when it was when I first started. I was like, oh, well, these people are actually coming to see me every week, because I'm just the type of person when I first started and through most of my career, I just worried about the work.
Yeah.
Just wanting to be a better comic and not really focusing on getting my name out there and doing all those things, which is just as important
Absolutely.
as being a good comic.
Yeah.
So doing this podcast, doing Ruby Tuesdays has helped me a lot in terms of like telling people, hey, you really need to come see me.
Absolutely.
You know?
I mean, what's the point of having
all this great material, nobody can see it.
Yeah, if you have a great brand, but you're not branding it, right?
Yeah.
Like you gotta brand that, because there's so many, there's a lot of starving artists out there who just don't know how to get their name out.
Yeah.
Even with other comics, like you guys were talking about earlier. So I think if you come from an ethnicity and you're comfortable in it, I think that it's pretty simple to go, okay, I'm gonna definitely promote to those guys.
Yeah.
And then hopefully other people will find me, and then because I don't want to just be like only performing for Iranians, right? I want to perform for everybody, and I pride myself on now when I tour, I've actually gotten a mixed audience, and I love that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I grew up in America, and that's my point of view. It's not going to be all Persian stuff.
Yeah. And I get really excited, like for Johnny in the new chapter of his career.
And the Portuguese.
Of course.
Epa!
Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah, because all these years he's been a fraud. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
he's not.
Well, you know what's
Mexican, so-
interesting?
Yeah.
I haven't. If you really think about it, because I've been the one Latino guy all these years that didn't dive into, hey, we got tortillas at the house, and then my nana show. Now listen, I know Latino comics that were doing that who really didn't have that background.
Yeah.
And I know quite a bit of them.
Yes.
And now that they're getting older, they're starting to come forward and be like, hey, by the way, I'm actually was raised this way and whatever.
Yeah.
But I knew that going in. And I always, my whole thing that I was third generation was specifically, but the fact of finding out that the majority is Portuguese, by about 5% over Mexican does, but at the same time, all makes sense to people who've known me all these years.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, oh, well, you weren't like,
But that's why your
what's
comedy.
up, raza?
First of all, I think your comedy. Anybody, like if you talk about your life, you'll be surprised how many people it reaches. So it doesn't matter as long as you're not like really playing to the audience and going like, oh, they want to hear about tortillas,
correct,
and making shit up,
exactly,
correct.
So that's number one. I think that's why it's like the whole thing of it's like a long game. Do your voice, people will find you, right? And then the second thing I was getting at was like, I actually was trying to like when Sebastian was like very funny, but wasn't finding an audience. I was talking to him. I was like, listen, you're doing a lot of material about dating. Like you should
observational.
Yeah, I said maybe you should reach out to your managers and see if they can set up like see if they can do something with like what's that one, the dating service, the something.com. It's before
Harmony.
I was like Harmony. I was like maybe you guys like can reach out to them and be like, it's a date night, bring your dates, because he'd had some really funny stuff on that. So I was trying to help him figure that out. Now obviously he figured it out beyond that, right? Or even like Kyle Dunnigan, I had a conversation with him because he was like, he's this white guy, he's like, how do I reach my audience? And I was like, maybe college kids. I don't know. Like I was trying to help him figure out how to reach those people.
Yeah. Well, I've always like, even with Russell Peters, seeing his audience, and then even you having your audience. For me and Johnny we've talked about this before. Johnny used to get on me years ago because, when you're talking to your friends on the phone, like they know the real you, and Johnny would be like, "Wait a minute, you're Haitian?" And I go, "Yeah," and she go, "Why aren't you talking about that?"
Yeah.
And I go, "Well, dude, when I first started, my first instinct was to be truthful and talk about my life and my experiences. But the difference between me and you is there's no Haitians in Los Angeles.
Right.
There's no Haitian community. Like there's no block you're going to go to in LA and it's going to be all Haitian
Little
stores.
Haitian.
Like, I live in
Haiti.
That's the name.
Yeah. I basically live in Little Iran. When me and Maz were meeting one time, he goes, "Where do you live?" He goes, "Dude, you live around my people." And I go, "Absolutely."
I didn't know there was a Little Iran.
Well, they call it Persian Square in Westwood.
Yeah, right off of
Westwood.
That whole area that I live in, it's all Persians.
If you go Westwood Boulevard between Wilshire and Santa Monica, actually Wilshire and Olympic, it's all Persian stores when you drive up and down. That's the bit Barry Sobel used to do. He's like, I was going down Westwood Boulevard. There's this Republic. The ha 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 ha. And he's like,
He always had it funny. Oh, how come? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just saying. So there was no frame of reference when I started. So I'm working black clubs.
Yeah.
people didn't even know about Haiti. They didn't know where Haiti was. They had no clue.
Yeah.
And I wasn't skilled enough as a young comedian to be able to explain to them, well, Haiti's this island in the Caribbean.
Exactly.
Blah, blah. I wasn't good enough to do it.
So that's the problem. See, that's the problem, because that's when you got exactly what you just said. When you are going after people doing A material, it's really hard for you to go, okay, I'm going to go explore the issues I had with my parents growing up or whatever it is. So I think you're right. Once you're skilled enough and you start doing it, then people actually go, oh, my grandmother does that. Oh yeah, my dad, doesn't matter if they're Haitian or Jamaican
or they
whatever.
know somebody,
they
or
know
somebody in the family that go, oh, they have similar upbringing.
I used to do a bit about how my grandmother kept all of her money in her bra. And I remember doing that at the Laugh Factory.
That's
and I looked out and there was
universal,
these Latina, they were cracking up, and and I was like, oh wow, their grandmother keeps it. A lot of grandmothers keep the cash in the bra. So
and that's one thing about comedy. You realize we're all different, but we have so much in common that we don't even realize.
The families, the cultures, it's really interesting how they intersect so much. But I know what I forgot to ask you about your podcast. That was what it was. That slipped earlier. Yeah. So what did you end up naming your podcast? Because remember we were in the booth and you were like, I'm trying to come up. So what did you end up?
So we ended up calling it Back to School with Maz Jobrani.
Okay.
And it was, and part of that, actually Al Madrigal helped me because it's all things comedy. So I'd gone to Al with, listen, I would do a podcast where, and it's similar to what you were saying. I need to analyze a little bit why I wait so long on some things. Like I waited till I was in my mid-20s to start comedy. Then when the whole podcast thing started, we had a podcast. We had Minivan Men, which was me, Al, and Chris Spencer.
I remember that.
Just talking about our kids.
I remember that.
Yes.
And if we had stuck with that right now, it would have been huge.
And what a great name.
Yeah. And I think it probably could have actually turned into a TV show. We had all kinds of episode ideas, but we just all got busy and we took off. And then rather than jumping right into it and going like, let me get this is 2011.
Yeah.
Rather than going like, I got to be on it, I was like, I'm touring, I'm busy, nothing is really interested in me. And then so I'm looking around, I'm seeing everyone's got these podcasts. I'm like, oh my God, it's helping them grow their audience.
Brand,
And I go, this is actually a great way to reach your audience, for people to find you, because then they find you and they like you, and then they come to your shows and they know your voice. It's not like, it's not like you're on a TV show playing a character and then they come and they go, wait, you're not that character at all. You're totally different. Right? Here, they get to know you. If they like you, they come. If they don't, they don't, right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, I want to do a show. Originally, I wanted to do a show that was like parenting and politics. And then Al was like, listen, politics can turn a lot of people off. Find something else. So I said, I dropped out of a PhD program in political science. And
Jesus, quit bragging.
No. Well,
I went to college. I was at UCLA.
First quarter.
In the theater department.
The theater. No, it was first quarter I got out of it. It was not for me. And then the other thing I realized, my kids, I got a 10-year-old, 8-year-old. So my son would ask me, they both would ask me questions that I didn't know the answer to. And so my son asked some question and I was like, God, I wish I had like Neil deGrasse Tyson to just answer this question. And then I thought, that's not a bad idea. Why don't I get experts, like actual professors and authors of stuff, bring them in, learn, and then also, try and be funny in between. So that's the show. It's called Back to School with Maz Jobrani, and I've got Tehran on there, and he's a good voice to jump in from time to time. And there's this other girl named Caitlin on there. And so basically we just bring in...
So 3 altogether.
3 sit down with the guy, and I'm the main person asking questions, but every once in a while, because like Caitlin's younger, she's in her 20s, and it's a female's point of view. It's like a class, basically. And then Tehran's like in his early 30s, and younger guy, half black, half Persian, right? And then
kind of millennial,
and then I'm this old fart over there. But I'm interested in a lot and it's interesting because like we had a guy who wrote a book about like God and just like our humans' relationship with God, and how every group has seen themselves in God, and just like all that. And then we had a guy who was this shoe entrepreneur who's a friend of mine. His name's John Buscemi. He's got a brand called Buscemi, and he was just talked about like being in New York and loving hip hop, and then getting into the shoe business, and it was just an entrepreneurial thing. Yeah. So we run all kinds of stuff. And it's been great. I mean, as you guys know, it's great. First of all, we can talk.
Yes.
Right? Which we do. Yeah. Like we do this anyway at the Laugh Factory on a weekend. You come, we're talking. But secondly, when you got someone who's there who has knowledge about a certain subject, I think it's really intriguing. Like this week we had a guy, this week's episode, we had a guy, he's a anthropologist, an evolutionary anthropologist, like how our brains have developed. So he had all these interesting things about like, because I asked him, I go, listen, let me ask you a question. I go, the difference between men and women. I go, I took my kids skiing, and my son, they're both around the same age, 10 and 8. My son's 10, my daughter's 8. And I go, we're skiing, and my son just wants to jump. He wants to jump off the jumps. And my daughter seemed pretty cool just skiing.
Yeah.
And I go, why is that? Why are men so reckless like that? And he goes, there is actually, our brains are different in that men will take those risks just in general. If you look at it, like even like when it comes to gambling, or it comes to like even managing your finances in life, the man will be like, listen, we're going to buy such and such stock. It's going to go.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because if I would have been on that podcast, I would have asked him, then what about those women or those young girls that have that same trait that a boy would have, that would jump? Because I have a friend who has a daughter who's a daredevil.
Yeah.
Does she have an extra,
DNA thing or
DNA
something?
thing that's more...
Some of it could be hereditary too, right?
But part of it is just, he was talking, obviously there's going to be outliers, right?
Of course,
and there's going to be a lot
yeah.
of those. I mean, look at, MMA fighting, there's a lot of women that are aggressive and,
by the way,
this and that, and vice versa.
You can see this at a park. If I take my daughter, I'm watching the boys, and they're just jumping off of everything, immediately taking risk and going places that the girls won't.
Well, you just made me think of something. Now, do you think a lot of times a parent shapes their kid's personality? So if you're a parent, you're always, she's a girl. Don't do that.
Sure.
Sit down.
Well,
and then they allow their boys to run into walls and to do
There's
whatever.
some of that, but it's also the desire, because both these kids were learning to ski together, and my son was better. He's older and he's more athletic, but my girl actually was really good. Like, I was very impressed with how she was skiing and her form. I would even say her form was better than my son, because my son, once it got to that point where he should really now be like, okay, I really need to focus on my form, he just was like, I want to fly. So he was now kind of like flailing all over the place, and my daughter's got these great turns, and my son's like, I'm going on the jump, and then she's like, I'll follow you, and then she kind of just followed him a little bit, but just her instinct was, and she might grow up and be an amazing skier / ski jumper, because she decides to do that, but it was just interesting to see that his instinct just pulled him there. I didn't tell either one of them, don't go. I was just like, go for it.
Yeah.
And then the guy said something really interesting, because again, this is what I'm saying. It's interesting to talk to people who study this crap.
Of course.
So this guy was like, he goes, they actually did some studies with rattlesnakes in Los Angeles. And he said they wanted to see who got bitten more, men or women. And who got bitten more by rattlesnakes, would you say, men or women?
Men. Yeah.
Okay. And that is true. Now, where do you think men got bitten when they were bitten, and where do you think women were bitten?
Women got bit on their ankles and then got bit on their hands.
Exactly. Women were walking and the snake bit them. Men in the study showed they were trying to grab it.
Yeah.
And he said, furthermore, in the study, it showed that there was other men around. So they were trying to like show off in grabbing the thing. So it just shows you.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm saying, to me, like, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So that's why the podcast, I'm trying to get people like that in for me to go, that is so interesting. It's so cool.
Great,
you
dude.
know?
That's great. And by the way, just one last. So you didn't end up going with any of my suggestions for
Oh, yeah. You had some good ones. The
Jesus.
Wizard of Maz, is that what it was?
That was one of them.
Of course, they're going to be all puns.
And
Go
the other
ahead.
one was the Maz and Effect.
The Mazen
all
effect.
right.
Well, I do have a couple of puns. I got one of the T-shirts I sell on the road. It says, "I'm amazing."
Oh, Jesus.
I love it.
Oh, my
But actually,
God.
well, it's actually I'm amazing. But I tell,
I know.
but the point is,
I
but
get
the
it.
point is to be like proud and like wear it like in the gym. Be like, I'm amazing. And I said, between us, we know I'm amazing. But I think there's a positive message to
But
it.
did you? Is the spelling?
It says A, and then the Maz is big,
big.
and then ing.
Yeah.
There you
And it's
go.
funny. So my wife was wearing one of the sweatshirts, which I loved. I actually thought, because part of you guys know when you're on the road, like if your merchandise is related to a joke you do, you have a hard time retiring that joke.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I felt
I
victim.
learned that.
Yeah. So
I
I was
learned
like,
that.
so I go, I need something that just goes forever.
Yeah.
So I came up with that, and then
Oh,
I gave it to my wife.
That's evergreen.
And by the way, Ruben t-shirts will be coming back out they'll be in full rotation, and you can get them at rubenpaul.com.
RubenPaul.com.
Yeah.
But no, my wife wore the I'm amazing shirt to the store, and she goes, I wore it. And she goes, some guy came up to me. She was like, I bet you are. Like some guy was hitting on my wife because of the shirt.
But you didn't even notice the spelling.
Yeah.
Was
Well, you don't.
capital.
I mean, nobody knows it's my. It looks like it's saying I'm amazing.
But can I tell you the best thing about your story?
Yeah.
Is the fact that you could tell somebody's doing well when their kids are skiing like damn near full time.
Bro,
that's not something you hear every day. Yeah, I took
that's true.
kids skiing.
Yeah.
bro, that skiing is expensive.
That's why.
Oh my God! You know what I do? It's kind of like because it's kind of like a few. I have a few expenditures. I'm not a big car guy, not a big watch guy. I mean, I have a nice car, but I'm not like, oh, I need 3 cars.
Of course,
4 cars, whatever. All these watches. But the kids go to private school. I would rather have them go to public school, but they go to private school, and it's a great school. But twice a year when the bill comes, I just kind of like. I'm in denial. I just forward it and I go, can you please pay this? And I don't want to deal with it.
I don't want to look at it.
And that's what skiing is. So I'll go to the thing and I'll be like, okay, so we got 3 kids or whatever. My nephew comes. We got 3 kids. Myself, rental, this, and this. And it's like they're like $4,000 like for the week or what. I'm like, okay, just take it on that. Let's just do it and I'll make it up somewhere. It's expensive.
Now they just got snow up in just yesterday.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something.
Crazy, right?
Wow.
End of May.
It's such a blessing for you to be able to do that, because if my dad, first of all, my parents we never did activities.
Yeah.
As a family, ever.
Yeah.
And I can imagine if I did talk my dad into taking me skiing, if we got to the top of that mountain and he saw the prices, he's like, we are going home.
We are going home.
It would just be, he wouldn't care if I cried on the way home. We're leaving. We ain't doing none of that shit.
It's amazing because it really is this like, it's a rich man's sport. Yeah. But it's a great sport because you're out in nature, right? It's kind of like when people talk about golf. They go, I love it. Like, I'm not a big golf fan, but my daughter's been taking lessons. So I'm thinking, like, maybe I'll start walking around with you. And I did one time just following her. And I was it's kind of cool. Birds chirping and all this stuff.
Good networking with the biz.
It's great networking.
Good networking.
I'm about to start golfing because of that.
Right?
Yeah. I mean,
but the skiing thing is when I was a kid. So my father, when he first came from Iran to America, he had a lot of money, and then he ended up losing a lot of it. But back then they would take us skiing, but nobody would.
I knew it.
But nobody would come on the hill with us. They would just be like, "All right, go get your lessons, or go with this person." And so they go, like, we were in Lake Tahoe. My dad would go gamble, and we'd be skiing. But now I actually started doing a bit about this because it was the first time that I went skiing with my kids, where they were at the point where they could start doing this jump stuff. And it was the most nerve-wracking thing in the world. Because first of all, I'm watching these dumbass snowboarders just coming through at full speed. And I'm going like, oh my God, they're going to run my kid over. Yeah. And then secondly, I'm seeing my own kids like going over these jumps. And I'm like, he doesn't know how to land a jump, and it's so nerve-wracking.
I can imagine.
So it's like, whatever. I hope to be able to continue to let them improve and get to the point where I feel comfortable with them skiing.
Yeah.
All
right. So you talked about this earlier, the axis of evil. And I know from coming up, and for us, like, look, to me, that project that you guys did, the tour that you guys did, was huge for you guys.
Yeah.
As a group and individually. And I think you really took off individually from that. Do you consider that a turning point or a defining moment?
Absolutely. That was one of the biggest ones. Because up until then, so after Mitzi's thing, then I did the movie Friday After Next, which was a big step in my career. But people knew me as that character, Moley. Yeah. So I'd be walking around and someone would be like, hey, you're Moley from Friday After Next. Yeah, nobody knew Maz Jobrani.
Yes.
Then when we did Axis of Evil, which was originally put together by Mitzi Shore and called The Arabian Nights. And we toured a little bit under that title. And then Ahmed, and Aaron were like, look, Iranians aren't Arabs. And that name is a little dated. Let's come up with a better name. We took, because George Bush had said there's an Axis of Evil, Iran, Iraq, North Korea. So we called it the Axis of Evil Comedy Tour. And we got it on Comedy Central. And exactly, because that was around the same time that YouTube was starting to take off. So this was 2007. Yeah. YouTube's taking off. We do our special. People now are taking clips of mine and they're emailing it to each other. This is when, before Facebook, they would email and you would get you would see like 100 people's emails. And I kept getting this thing with this different clip. This guy's funny. This guy's funny. And I was like, oh my God, this thing's circulating.
Yeah.
So we started getting known. And then we did a tour in the US. And then we got a call from some people in the Middle East who wanted us to go to the Middle East. And that was amazing because going over the Atlantic Ocean felt like once we landed in the Middle East, there had not been a group of American comedians coming to perform for the people of the Middle East. And it was a big deal. It was like they'd been waiting for us. So suddenly we had press conferences. They were like, yeah, there's going to be a press conference. I'm like, who's coming to a press conference? And we go there and there's like all these outlets. They're like, what's it like doing comedy in America? Da, 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 da. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. The King of Jordan came to our show in Jordan. I mean, it was this amazing experience. And yes, that was definitely a turning point because that was a time when our names, Maz Jobrani, Ahmed, Aaron Cater, people started knowing us for us.
Yeah.
It was, wait a minute, it was.
Dean Obidala was on it too.
Yeah.
Dean out of New York.
That's who it was.
Yeah.
That's who it was.
I don't know if you remember this,
Yep.
but I remember me, you, and Johnny sat down and we were talking about doing a tour together. And this was right about when you guys had just done the Axis of Evil.
Oh, wow. I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was me, you, and Johnny. We met. And then I remember you were like, man, I would love to work with you guys. That would be great. And then you were like, but, we're kind of doing this Axis of Evil thing. And we talking about money because your money was starting to go up. And then I remember you leaving. I go to Jenna and go, he's out of here, man. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It didn't make business sense for you.
Yeah, of course not.
You know,
of course not.
And when you're talking about, like, why do you take so long to do certain things?
Yeah.
I seem to fall into the thing of I'll come up with a great idea, I'll try it, I hit the first roadblock, and I'm like, fuck it, let me go back to what I know and kind of leave things. So now it's about taking your ideas all the way to fruition.
Perseverance and sticking with it. I mean,
that's
but just to be a stand-up comedian, you've done that.
I've done that. Exactly.
You've
I'm talking
done
about
that.
On the marketing, putting
Absolutely.
stuff together, on the business end. Those
Because
are the areas that I always want to grow and develop.
Yeah,
in.
it doesn't happen the first round out, you know, and it's like redefining, finding your audience, keep going at it, right? I mean, and look, sometimes it's like it is lightning in a bottle type thing. You know, you got
that's the name of my production company.
Oh, there you go.
And mine's Lightning in a Taco.
Lightning in a Taco.
Thank
there
you.
go.
Jesus.
Lightning
I
in
did
a
that for Russ. I did that for Russ because I know Russ likes it. All right. Anyway.
But no, I think you're right. You got to stick with it and go through it. And so, for example, if you have that great idea for a tour, you know, the touring thing is interesting because people see a tour and they go, "Oh wow, there's 4 guys and they're of this background and it's working. Well, then we'll just do our own and it's going to work." And you go, "No, it's not that easy."
No.
I learned that, you know, like when we first started, again, we would do smaller clubs, built an audience, do well. Show was an all-around good show. People would enjoy it. They would tell their friends. We're kind of, you know, standing out. We're doing it. So I remember at one point there was somebody was trying to do like another one, and it was like, you know, they had like 10 different people from, you know, Middle Eastern, Indian, all these things, and they wanted to go do a theater right away. And I go, whoa, none of these people on your thing can have the an audience to draw to do a theater. I go, start in a club. You got funny people, but go to the club, let people find out what it is, and then work your way up.
Yeah.
And they tried a theater and it didn't go well because ultimately it takes time to build it.
Absolutely.
Right. And so when you get like a great idea and you go, it's me, Johnny, you know, Maz, whatever it is, and it's gonna be called yeah, you got to start a couple of hot nights on a, you know, with the factory smaller, and then, you know what I'm saying?
And you build it.
Was that who was the other person? Was that when we wanted Butch in? Was
no,
Butch the other
well, I
person?
think that came on the tail end when we were
with
gonna
Mike Young.
Yeah,
and then,
we were doing.
and
then we were just like, yo, let's just do a 3-man thing. We're all
that's right.
different.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And
yeah,
it was like, yo, how about Maz? And I want to say we met at the Coffee Bean, and it was just the 3 of us.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
No, because honestly, I was kind of spacing a little bit.
I remember that specifically.
Familiar, but
and let me just say this, which is like an add-on to what I was saying about sometimes, like you come and you hit that first roadblock. I think as a comic, for me specifically, because I've been, you know, solo or independent contractor for much of my career, is sometimes the kiss of death is having to pay your bills. Now, I don't go work a day job, you know, serving tables, but as a comic, if I'm putting things together and it's like, now where it's like, I got to go get this money, man. I got to go on tour. I have to be able to pay my bills, keep my lights on, do whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
So sometimes those ideas become stagnant because you're chasing money instead of chasing, you know, the progression.
Absolutely.
Of
and that's why
next
it's good
step.
to, if you can get people to partner up with you, or if you can, or again, consistency is important, right?
Absolutely.
So if you go, okay, you know what, we're going to do every Tuesday, Ruby Tuesdays, and I'm going to grow it and I'm going to tour with it.
Yes.
So, okay, every Tuesday I got to go no matter what. So I'm not going to book, because you know, you can book yourself on different times. And if for whatever reason you get booked to do a Spielberg movie on a Tuesday night. You get Johnny to host one of the Ruby Tuesdays.
Exactly.
But it's about.
I mean, trying to get him to do anything.
Yeah.
Jesus, dude.
But it's about. I think you're right. It's about being consistent.
He and our producer jumped in. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's just consistency.
What's he nodding about over there?
You
He
know?
has no idea. Sorry, Maz.
No.
And I will say this to you, man. I'm just proud of you.
Thanks, man.
With how hard you work to grow your brand and everything that you've done. And not to end this on a sour note, but some things that people don't realize about comedians is, you know, we show up every night to perform and give people the best show possible. That's the job. But people don't really realize what goes on in our private lives.
Yeah.
And you still have to show up and you still have to be funny. And you've been very helpful to me and just having conversations with things that I've gone through in my private life with the loss of my parents and just dealing with that. And you've had loss. You know, one thing, you know, we want to give inspiration on this show.
Sure.
Now for you, with what you've gone through with your sister, with your brother, how did that shape you to be able to continue on your journey and still have to show up because you have a family, you have kids, and you still have to show up and perform and be amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Nice.
right. You got it.
That's
buy
a
the
callback.
shirts. Buy the shirts. MazJobrani.com.
Callback, everybody.
MazJobrani.com. No, you know those were the two hardest things in my life. Obviously, I lost my brother, and then I lost my sister, and those. I mean, that's just you realize is life.
Yeah.
I don't know if I fully dealt with it or not. You know, I mean, it's
I'm still dealing with it.
Yeah,
so
and it's a thing where you're like, you know, I think once you have some distance from it, you're not thinking about it day to day, and then once in a while I'll think about her, and she was the most. In 2017, I lost her and breast cancer, and it was, you know, when I think about her, I'm like, oh God, I'm like, how did this work? Like, how is somebody like that passing, like such a good person?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it made me not believe in karma, really, be honest with you, because we have some big a-holes in
who
this
are
world.
alive and well and
alive
kicking,
and
man,
well.
and running marathons.
And I'm like, why? How does that happen? You know, so, you know, but what, I mean, comedy and doing what I love and whatever it is that you do ultimately helps you just keep moving forward, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Even last night, for example, I was a little, it was a Tuesday night. I was like, oh, I wish I could stay home with the family and watch, but they were watching Blackish. And I go, but I put in for a spot because the store is a good night on Tuesdays to go and work out.
I was there last
stuff.
night.
Yeah. So I was like, you know, and I'd been wanting to work out some new stuff, and I got a chance to do it, and it felt good. Afterwards, I was like, oh, that's good. That stuff's coming together. So just doing that, like doing.
Did you ever consider taking any time off?
You know,
or did you take any time
obviously
off?
when I was going through that stuff with my family, it was I don't think I was getting up a lot. I think I took that time off.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, when my brother passed away, I was supposed to do shows that weekend in Chicago, and I was doing Wait, Don't Tell Me that Thursday. My brother passed away on a Tuesday, and we were trying to organize the funeral services or whatever. And I thought to myself, well, I don't need to be in town. I can still go do these gigs, because especially it's not like we're accountants where you can call somebody and be like, oh, have someone cover me. Where people have bought tickets. So I actually flew that Thursday morning. The way when you do Wait, Don't Tell Me, it tapes out of Chicago. It's a NPR show.
Yeah.
So I got on a plane that morning, Thursday morning, and I flew to Chicago with the anticipation of taping the show that night. It's a taping. It's not a video. It's a audio. And I landed and I took a nap on the way there, and I woke up and I was like, I can't be funny. So I called my manager. I said, listen, man, I can't do this. And then he's like, all right, we'll get someone to cover for you. So I just got on a plane and flew right back.
Wow.
And I was with the family, and it's important, obviously, in those times to be with them.
It is. I know I probably only, after I lost my parents back to back 2 weeks apart.
Yeah.
And I remember showing up at the Laugh Factory, and everybody was like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
But it was the only thing that that felt normal to me. And I was just trying to find some normalcy in my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember going up on stage and feeling at home, feeling great, glad I did it. Then when you get off stage, like you go back to the pain and what you're dealing with. Yeah. But maybe, listening to you, maybe I should have taken some more time off. Yeah. But I'm still trying to figure out, because as I talk to different people, as you talk to therapists and stuff, you realize I haven't fully dealt with this. I haven't fully, because life goes on, man. That's one thing that you realize when you deal with death is time stops for no one.
Absolutely. But you got to give yourself time to grieve, because it's like you've been cut, but you haven't treated it. You got to treat the cut some. So I did with my sister. I did a lot of I did go to a grievance counselor and went through some stuff, and it helped. But I would say again, in the long run, I don't think I've said, like, I don't think anybody has an answer. Like you could run to the Dalai Lama and he'd be like, I don't know.
Because you were telling me about your friend that you're on the show with that gave you that book or told you about a book.
Yes, that was the one. The book was called God, what was it called? I forget the name right now, but it's a whole thing about grievance, the grievance method or something. I forget what it was called, but you basically, it's got this thing where you go through it and you write about it, your loss, and you can go through it with a counselor, and they take you through all your losses throughout your life, and did you grieve those? Did those leave as little as like, leaving an old house that you left, or like leaving a childhood friend or whatever it was, and you go through those, and then you find the one that's the most deep, and then you start writing letters to those people, and it's a pretty good exercise. Yeah.
Wow, I got to get that book from you. Yeah. I know we talked about it, and thanks to you and another friend, I actually remember we talked about going to visit my parents' grave. Yeah. And I finally did it last year.
I'm happy you did that.
Yeah, man. And it was great. It was I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And I felt kind of weird driving down there, but I felt like this need, because me and you talk, you're like, dude, you just got to go.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, because when I went and I couldn't find the grave at first, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I went by memory. That's how, because I hadn't been back to the cemetery since the day that we buried my mom. We buried my dad a week prior. Then we buried my mom a week later, and I remembered where it was. And then this lady was like, "Hey, can I help you?" And I go, "Yeah, I think my mom and dad are somewhere around here." Yeah. And then she pulled out, a little thing, and she found us. She's like, "Oh, I'll show you. You're close." And I was right there. So
that's great, man.
It helps, man. So if anybody's dealing with anything, you're not alone. I'm blessed to have friends like my Portuguese brother Johnny and Maz, and it helps on this journey, because this is such a solo art form that we're in.
Yeah.
So when you have friends that look out for you, whether it be referring you for a gig or an agent or a manager, or just even being able to talk about life stuff to help you get through it when you've gone through similar things, it's a blessing. And
my pleasure,
don't
man.
take it for granted.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you doing the show.
And I think that's why sometimes we as comics all hang out sometimes, because we show up by ourselves. We're all kind of lone wolves. So there's always those guys that come in packs, but there's those pack wolves. But for the most part, comics are lone wolves. They show up by themselves. They hang out. Then, because the next day we're all by, it's just the auditions, the whatever is all by ourselves again.
Yeah. I mean? And I remember when Brody passed away. I ran into we're at the factory, and Maz just goes, "Hey man, I love you, man." Because we don't say it enough. And I know a lot of people get uncomfortable, especially men. I love you, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to Mira K, but every time we see each other, it's like, "I love you, dude. Love you too, bro."
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
he didn't say that to me.
I could probably tell you why.
Amir K. Come on, Amir K.
Yo, you're always on his back. But he said you guys actually hung out.
We did.
And had a good time.
It was the night.
We
We had a lot of fun.
He's like, "Yeah, man, actually, he killed last night, dude.
I love
he
him,
did my
man.
show last night. He killed." But
he's talented.
I just know, like, sometimes it's important for us to let each other know how we feel instead of having to guess. And one thing I can say about me, man, people that I care about, they know.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you whether you're uncomfortable with it or not. It's important for me that how important you are and how much I appreciate your friendship.
I appreciate you, man.
Johnny. Anyway, so
hey man, I
will
met
say it
him
in Portuguese.
first, man. It is like that. No, but it's been a long journey, dude. I mean, think about it. I met him in '98, dude. I met him around the same
20 years, bro.
around the same time I met Bobby Lee. Bobby
Yeah.
Lee started at the store in '98, same thing.
Yeah.
And we've just always crisscrossed. We've always also Maz is always a guy. We bring his name up. We bring your name up a lot with projects.
Yes.
And we're talking like not stand up,
Yeah.
but acting stuff. We always go, God, you know what?
Maz
We did
would be-
something
yeah.
like Maz.
Let's do it.
Maz would be this guy. Maz could be
So
that guy.
so how did you, and we can end it with this, how did you connect with Jamie and the whole Persian
that was my
thing?
next question.
Yeah,
dude.
like
Yeah.
that
Well,
whole thing
I
is
love
fat.
that
Because
guy.
Yeah.
when I tell you Jamie Masada, buddy, the Maz, he great. I
the
open club.
Maz.
I open club Syndigo. I want Maz to like. Is
Jamie is like, I think we're very simpatico. When I first met Jamie, I did the whole stand in line, wait.
Now, were you already at the store, or this was?
I was at the store already.
That's what I thought.
And then
So
and then
this
I
is
went.
99, 2000.
This is like probably 2000.
Okay.
I would take off from my day job at the ad agency, and my boss would let me go, and I'd show up at like 1 p.m, stand in line with a bunch of crazy people, and
Yeah, the stand in line
then
thing.
sign my name up at 6, come back at 8, and do my 3. And then when I did my 3, the first time I did my 3, again, you stand out when you're one of the best of the worst.
Yeah.
And so he was really nice. He's like, buddy, you're very funny. My God, you're like the next Richard Pryor. You're amazing. Come back in 4 weeks. I'm like, what? Because he would compliment you,
Yes.
but then he'd be like, but I'm not making it. And I was like, what the hell? So he's like, come back in 4 weeks. And I think I either came back a couple times or something happened. I might have come back a couple times.
Did he know you're
Yeah, because
Iranian?
I was doing that stuff, but
Okay.
he wouldn't. But he didn't even tell me because he didn't know me, right?
That sounds like Jamie.
Yeah. So what I would do is then I got the showcase, and then when I did the 10-minute showcase, they lit me early. I got off. I had a good set. I got off at like 6 minutes, and then he goes, "Buddy, you're supposed to do 10. Why you get off at 6?" I go, "You lit me." He goes, "No, they make mistake." I go, "All right, well, you saw it, right?" He goes, "No, I have to see 10." I'm like, "Come on, Jamie."
That sounds like
Yeah. So basically, I'm like, I gotta. So basically, I go, hey man, I go, what if I do a big show here? I will bring people, let's fill it up. I'll do 20 for you, and blah blah. He goes, okay, let's do it. And I did the thing. I promoted it.
Oh wow.
Packed the show. I had like back then.
No wonder he loves you so much.
Yeah, so then I had like Harlan Williams come on, and somebody else, and I was there, and I go, and I had a good set, but it was okay set. It was a good set. But Jamie was like, buddy, you weren't as like rock and roll as before. You need to do more time. I go, Jamie, come on, man, just make me ready.
Yeah.
So I kind of like pushed him through into it, and he's like, all right. So then he made me regular, but he wasn't giving me spots. So then what I would do is, because of the Dublins, I'd show up on a Tuesday. I'd have a spot at Dublins. I'd park on Fairfax. I would walk through and just make sure Jamie saw me. Hey, how are you? And then once in a while, they'd be like, you want to do 5 at the end? I go, great.
Yeah.
So I just kept going and going and going. And then eventually I think that he came around, and then we just became buddies. And then we both like enjoy wine. And
Yeah.
I love the guy, man. He's great.
He's great.
Yeah, he is great, man.
So I know you do a lot of charity work. Is there an organization or anything that you'd like to plug? And I
Yeah.
know you're doing another fundraiser
I
this
do
week.
a lot of fundraisers,
Yeah.
but I work a lot with the Persian American Cancer Institute,
Yes.
PACI.org.
I've done a couple of those shows with
They're
you.
great, and I also am working with this something called the International Medical Corps, IMC, and they are another one that I'm going to do. So yeah, I mean, people can go on my website, mazjobrani.com, or they can find me at social media. Everything is just at Maz Jobrani.
Okay.
And I always post about stuff, and whenever there's something that I can help out with, I do.
Any international tours or anything coming up?
No, I will. I'll be in Australia soon.
Okay.
And then I've also got Houston, Miami, San Diego, and Dallas coming up. So again, people go to mazjobrani.com.
Oh, so you are doing the factory is the San Diego thing? Is that
No, the
Oh,
San
okay.
Diego thing is the store, La
Oh,
Jolla
okay.
Club. Yeah,
La Jolla.
Yeah,
La Jolla.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, people can find me at Maz Jobrani again, and all the tour dates, mazjobrani.com. And then most importantly, listen and subscribe to Back to School with Maz Jobrani.
Back to School with Maz Jobrani.
Well, thank you, brother. For
Thank
doing
you,
the show,
man. Love you
homeboy.
guys. Love you guys.
Yes.
All
Well,
right.
that's the best of everything with Maz Jobrani and my Portuguese brother, Johnny
Epa.
Sanchez. Yo, so Ruby Tuesdays every Tuesday night. Hollywood Laugh Factory, 9:30. Maz does the show sometimes. He's going to come back and do it soon.
I will do it.
We out.
Ruby motherfucking Tuesdays.
This show is all about diversity and bringing everyone together.
You never know who you're gonna see at Ruby Tuesday.